Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. Once again, it's on. Welcome to the As Told By podcast. Delayed, but not denied. We are late with this episode. This episode was actually supposed to run Tuesday, March the 7th, but coming off of Black Joy Week, I think I had a little too much Black Joy because I was laid down for the week to follow. I was not well, and I had a whole week and a half of rest and recovery, but I'm back because we still have one more episode for season 3 of the As Told By podcast. So this will be it for the season. And we're here this is going to be a fun interview because this for me will just feel like conversation. But this is a guest that many of you know and love. So I will introduce them. You probably are familiar with them because you see me working with this product a lot. So when you see me baking with jam and making drinks with jam and cooking meals with jam and selling jam and being at jam pop-ups, this is all courtesy of That's My Jam Company. And That's My Jam Company is headed up by its founder and owner, MarQuita. That's my guest today. Hey, MarQuita.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Thank you for coming to the As Told By podcast.
Thanks for having me, but I am not late. I am always on time.
Excuse me. The lateness was on my part. But here we are nonetheless, and I was looking forward to this conversation because, for people who know me personally, MarQuita is the homie. This is, beyond the homie. This is my sister at this point. And so I have had the privilege to really see her journey as an entrepreneur from the very beginning. So to that point, let's get started with a little bit of backstory because this is actually not your first time coming to the As Told By podcast, is it?
It's not. This is my second time.
Okay, second time around. For listeners who have been here since season 1, MarQuita appeared on episode 2 of season 1, talking about the road to entrepreneurship. She was joined at that time by the homies over at Final Sauce. Shout out to Brownie and Princess. But she was right at the very beginning of her journey. I think you were still in your full-time job at that point.
I believe you're correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's start there. Let's wind back.
Was that a rewind?
That was a rewind. Let's rewind and let's start back with when you came and you did that episode, where you were at with regard to becoming an entrepreneur, making the decision to go full-time in your business, and just what were some of the emotions that you were feeling at that time?
You want me to remember a whole year ago.
Almost 2 now. It's been a minute.
Let's see. I remember saying that this journey was excitingly terrifying. So if I had to go back, there was this excitement of not knowing what was to come and being terrified by that also. There was this really strong feeling to bet on myself and just see what could be. Yeah, that's what I remember. That's what I remember sitting in the room this time last year, having that conversation with you.
I remember in a lot of the conversations you and I had around that time, just the natural, I don't want to call it fear, right? But the natural trepidation, I'll say, of letting go of a full-time job in order to step into something you don't know. Because, last I checked, we all got bills. We all have, financial obligations and things and folks we're responsible to and for. And so it was not easy to make the decision. And you also worked in a really unique environment. You weren't at a regular, everyday run-of-the-mill job. So again, just flash back a little bit for those of you who were here earlier this season. We interviewed Court Smith and Nana Kofi Inti of 510 Media, and you actually were part of that team for many years.
I was very fortunate to sit at the table with a team of really dope creatives and beautiful entrepreneurs. And that really put me on the path to think about what this could be. And I always say it's so funny how life works and how, God is opening doors for you before you even realize that it's time for you to step into those doors. Because working with Nana and Mashama of 510 Media, I got to be right underneath them and see what it was like to run a business and run a team and have to, make decisions. And I got to see all of that. And my mind was always thinking like, what would it be like if I had to make this decision? And, that was just the space that I was in while I was there, not knowing that fast forward some few years later that I would have to make my own decisions. And so, it's funny that thank you for reminding me of what of what that was like, because you're absolutely right. The world is designed for you to go to college, come out of college, maybe with or without a lot of debt, but, based off your situation. And
she didn't go to any old college, y'all. This is a Cal Berkeley graduate we are speaking to.
Look at you just
here.
telling all my business.
Because I want, not that people need to put some respect on your name because it's already there, but just put a little bit extra because, she ain't come from ICDC.
And no shade.
No shade to the ICDC.
Yeah. So, the trajectory is that you go to college and you come out and you get a job. And the idea of not having a steady check or benefits or health insurance, I remember having to really pep talk my way through it. And I remember you and I were talking. I kept telling myself, there's always Trader Joe's. There's always Trader Joe's. And for me, if you know me, I love a good grocery shopping experience. Trader Joe's is one of my favorites. And when you go there, people are always happy. So I was like, okay, if I step off of this ledge and I just fall, there's always Trader Joe's. I would literally pep talk myself that way. And so, I do remember that. I remember it being very, oh my God, am I doing this? And then it was just time to jump. And here I am.
Well, you jumped.
Girl.
You jumped. So, and it was a big jump. And, just for me to go back a little bit. So for people who may not be familiar with what That's My Jam Company is, I could do it, but I'll let you do it. Go ahead and give people a bit of a rundown about what the company is, what some of the premises of the product are, and then what the product offerings are.
So the product is a low sugar and pectin-free jam company. And as soon as I say that, most people are like, well, what's pectin? Great question. Pectin is usually a powder that's added to jam. And what it does is it acts as a thickening agent. But what happens with pectin is that sugar is required to activate it. So that's why you get a lot of jams that have a lot of sugar. So when I was creating this, I just, was looking at recipes and I saw that some of the recipes had 1 cup of sugar to 1 cup of fruit. And I thought that was ridiculous. So in my naiveness, I just took the sugar out and I didn't have any pectin in my cabinets. And so it was like, okay, what can I do without it? And that's how I went down the path of low sugar and pectin-free. Our jams are looser in texture, which allows for them to be used for cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And that's what really sets us apart and makes us special. We have our very popular peach cobbler jam. Our savory option is mango masala. We offer a blueberry lavender, a spicy strawberry fig, a mango lemon, and we have the dessert jam raspberry chocolate.
Okay. Listen, we go up to and including this past weekend. You and I go back and forth because I want to come and buy up all the inventory. I want to come and buy up all the inventory. And you're like, listen, I need the product to be in front of new customers. I don't need you to buy up all the inventory. I actually am a really big fan of the jams. It's part of of how MarQuita and I met, because MarQuita is connected to Hope Academy. I also am a member. This is my 3rd year in Hope Academy. And I just remember hearing somebody mention that there was somebody in the class who made jams. And not only do I want to support the other entrepreneurs in the class, but y'all know I like to buy food. And so I'm like, okay, well, who's making jams? Did I hear somebody who's making jam? And so they pointed me to MarQuita. And so I hit her up. And I'm like, hey, I didn't know her just from class. And I'm like, I want to place an order. And I can't even remember what flavors I got the first time. I don't remember.
It was definitely peach, because there's a posting of it.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go scrolling back to when I got my first hit. And I was just like, ooh, this is good. And I'm like, okay, I want some more. And she and I talked, and we ended up at brunch, and she talked to me about what was at that time her emerging business model, and I really became a fan of the product. And through that, I kind of caught her right at the beginning of her entrepreneur journey, but I also caught myself at the beginning of a customer journey. So I do like to sometimes come and clear out the inventory and just buy everything up. And she's like, skirt.
When you see the sold out signs, we might be blaming someone named Kahja.
It might be me. I do have quite a stockpile in my home. But yeah, to that point, you're here in Northern California. A lot of your selling takes place at vending events, pop-ups, outdoor artisan markets. And vending events are always good opportunities to get in front of your customers and have, in-depth, in-person interaction. But there's a lot that goes into it. As a person who would frequent these kinds of events all the time, it's kind of like one of my favorite pastimes to do. And you just show up as a customer and you're perusing and buying from the different merchants that are there. But I had no idea about the amount of work that goes into setting up for that. So for the people like me who just are there and have no clue, walk us through a day in the life of an in-person vending event. Like, what all goes into showing up at a pop-up and you're there with your table all beautifully appointed, smiling in your That's My Jam apron and selling jam. How'd you get there?
Well, to be honest, it started way before that day. So usually you're trying to find the correct and right fit for you in terms of a vending opportunity. Everybody is not your crowd. And so there was a lot of research ahead of time to make sure that this would make sense for me to be in this space. I would say maybe a couple of weeks leading to the event, you want to make sure that you have all of your inventory. So all the jams are in stock, all the bags you need, all your technology is ready to go. Maybe you've practiced setting up your booth so that when you get there, you can just, save the time of trying to figure things out. Unfortunately, am usually up the night before, packing up my car, making sure everything is labeled. I have everything, building my little toolkit in case this happens. And then we're there early, usually like 2 hours before the event. We're setting up. We're trying to do coffee runs and make sure we have the energy to get through the day. And then, we have a few moments to ourselves to get our energy together because we have to be on for the day. And so it's usually a long day, but it's great because I get to meet people and I get to introduce my product to them and we get to have conversations about it. And they're excited and I'm excited. And that really is like the best part of all of the hard work that it took to get there for that day is interacting and meeting the people and having them and being able to see their reaction to trying the jam. So.
Yeah, the kids especially. The kids are always funniest because they're, they keep it a bean.
Listen, the kids are my friends because if the kids are like, and the mom hears low sugar and pectin-free, it's an instant sell.
Got him.
Like, thanks, friend.
Yeah, you love that one up perfectly. Yeah, the vending events, there's all kind of considerations. Weather, windy days, if it's really cold, if it's really hot, if it's raining, if, we forgot to stand for this and now you've got to improvise. And
we've done all the things.
All the things, yeah. So when you come out to an event, you have a little bit of insight into what the back end of that looks like. It's not easy, but it can be lots of fun. It's been just maybe about a year and a half for you now, right?
Right.
Since you've gone full time in your business. What are some considerations for people who are starting out that you wish you knew when you started a year and a half ago?
That's a hard question because I think everybody's journey is different. And I think what I didn't know, I needed to not know so that I could learn and be able to apply it. So I don't really look back and say, I wish I knew something. I just work on really staying present and learning the lesson that is in front of me, being curious, always asking questions if you know me.
The questions. But let me tell y'all something. And I have come to my place with it. MarQuita, if she ain't going to do nothing else, she going to ask some questions.
I'm going to ask some questions because my mind is always like, that's interesting. What's that? What's the story behind that? So, I can't sit here and say that there's something that I wish I had known because I needed to not know it so that I could know it.
And learn on the way.
That's what this is about. If you think that you're going to have everything figured out before you take that leap, you will never leap.
That's something for a lot of folks to think about. You have to start somewhere.
And I think you have to get comfortable with not knowing and trusting that you're going to figure it out. Trusting that you have what it takes to figure it out along the way. But if you are believing that I'm going to study this and I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to have it all lined up and then I'm going to go, good luck with that.
Yeah. I've struggled with that a bit. I come from a corporate environment where being prepared in advance of moving forward with something works to your benefit, and not doing that will absolutely work to your detriment, and it will show if you came in unprepared. But walking into entrepreneurship, this is a complete different environment. There's only so much preparation you can do.
That, and then things are going to always throw you a curveball. I mean, I remember us being at a pop-up, and what did I forget? I forgot something.
It was the stands.
It was something that Brandy had to go back and get. It was something.
Oh, it was the labels.
It was the labels.
It was the labels for the jars. I'm like, well, I'm saying some jam, like mystery jam. What's in this jar?
It was the labels. Everything was packed up. The labels were literally at my door. But in my rush to, gotta go, I stepped over them and walked out of my door. And we're all set up and we're there so early because we were planning on, finishing the labeling. And we're both like, where's the labels? Where's the labels? And we had to call a friend to go to the house and pick it up. And even in that, we were trying to brainstorm, what can we do? I was like, can I call an Uber and just put the labels in the car? It was just so many things. And so there's just those instances where you're just going to have to get comfortable with thinking outside of the box. There's going to be curveballs. There's going to be things that you planned for and it didn't go that way. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to just get really comfortable with pivoting and making it happen in spite of. And even though maybe you had this plan and this vision for it to look this way, most importantly, is that it happens. And so you're just going to have to be flexible and just be pliable and flexible and just roll with the punches. Because that's really all you can do. You're not a team of 100. You're a team of 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky. So you got to make it happen.
And happen quickly. You can't, I've learned watching you can't spend a lot of time in, oh man, we forgot the labels. Damn, what I'm going to do? You just have to very quickly say, okay, I don't have this. What am I going to do? Let's do this. Put this in place, put that in place. You have to be able to pivot and do it fast.
And I think my friends are mad at me sometimes for that. Because they're like, we want to sit in this space of venting and talking about it. And it's like, girl, I get it. But we only got 5 minutes. We got to come up to a solution. We can vent when it's over. And I think that, like, I am recognizing that that is changing within me. Like, my bandwidth to really sit in a problem, I don't have it. I'm really like, let's just get to the solution. How do we pivot? And I think being an entrepreneur is definitely great practice for that.
You know what? That takes me right into the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because in learning your own bandwidth, you know, we've talked a lot within Hope about this paradigm of time, attention, money, right? And now you're really having to apply that. Has it been difficult for you to keep that in balance and in order?
Difficult. I'm definitely not great at it, but I am aware, and I'm always like checking myself like, MarQuita, this ate up a lot of time. You probably should have walked away from this 2 hours ago and came back to it when your schedule allowed for you to do it. I'm always like checking myself. I'm more aware of like how long things take. And, you know, maybe it makes more sense to be there at the store first thing in the morning because the lines aren't long versus the convenience of being there later in the day because now I'm wasting more time standing in line. It has become this not really hyper focus, but like maybe more of a sensitivity to my time and how I'm spending it. Because when you have a to-do list that is quite long, you're aware of like there's things that I got to get done, and so we have to make these interactions, you know, more streamlined
and move expeditiously. You know, and I always want to make a day of things. Oh, let's go and check out this new place. Okay, well, you know, is there a place nearby where we can have lunch? He's like, yeah, I don't really have the time to do that right now. I have to get back and do X, Y, and Z.
And I'm trying to get better with that. I think when I first started, it was just, I can't do nothing. It's just this night and day. But, you know, life is also happening as well. So I'm starting to get a little bit better with that. But no, you can't be at all the events. You can't accept, you know, all the invitations. It's like, you know, what did Nana always say? He's like, I'm not going to no 1-year-old birthday party. It's kind of like, it's kind of like that. You have to choose wisely.
Yeah. Pick where you spend your time. One of the key aspects of entrepreneurship, you know, and we talked about it just a moment ago, is the importance of pivoting. And, you know, I know that, yes, you've learned to do it and you've had to do it, but what about, you know, your relationship with how that makes you feel within your business as an owner? Is this whole premise of navigating uncertainty and all of these last minute changes and unexpected situations. I could imagine that for most people, it can be jarring. How's your relationship changing just in general with uncertainty based on the experience you're having in your business?
I remember working at my job and I would always be like, oh my God, they didn't sign this. They didn't do this. And I would see, you know, my boss's reactions and they'd just be like, okay. And I'd be like, okay. Like I'd be over here. It has to go like this, this, and this. Well, I had to quickly understand that the bandwidth that it takes to react that way, number one. And then two, like, it's not going to go like that. You're working with people who have, you know, their own timelines and things going on with their life. And so if I think that we can do these things and check off these boxes and then you do your thing and we check off these boxes and everything just goes in order, like that's just not how life is designed. So I had to really like get myself together and learn to see people better, but then also to kind of give myself that grace as well. Like this is not a checkbox experience. It's going to forever be me pivoting. And I have to get really comfortable with that. I have to almost expect it. And then it becomes a game of, well, how do we problem solve? Like, oh my God, we have forgot the labels and doors open in 30 minutes. What are we going to do? And it's almost like this game. It kind of gets fun, even though it's extremely stressful. It gets fun of like, how are we going to solve this? What are we going to do? And I think as I lean more into that space, I'm getting more muscle with that because that's really what it's about. I seen a quote and I can't even quote it, but basically they were saying like, it's really just about a whole bunch of obstacles. And all that it's ever going to do is get harder. You're going to keep climbing that hill, and it's just going to keep getting harder and harder. So rather than focusing on how hard it is, you better start enjoying the process, because it's not going to get easier. Your decisions are going to get bigger. There's going to be more money involved. And so enjoy this climb up the hill, and enjoy the view, because you're going to always keep climbing.
Yeah, that makes me think of something that came up in the episode with Nana, where he said entrepreneurship is like putting together a puzzle where the pieces are always changing. And I can absolutely see the truth in that paradigm, because it's never going to be the same thing. I remember a few months back, and I was like, well, maybe you should create some templates and some step action guides and like a process outline, so that you can hand this and people can do this, and this. Because again, not only do I come from a corporate background, but an HR background where things are very structured and there's an outline for here's how we move from this process from start to finish. And, writing down, we're going to do this, and here's a tracker. We'll create a spreadsheet where, you put this in and put that in. And child, when you're in the mix, and this is like, yeah, this is not that. You're not going to be able to apply that here.
I think that's a common belief. I think, and I've had years in corporate as well. And we have titles and we have this feeling of business, but it's a very different playground when you don't have an IT department, because you are IT department. It's a very different playground when, there is no upper management, because you are upper management. You have to wear all the hats, and you have to approach it very differently. And it's something I didn't fully understand until I took that leap. It's a very different structure. And, having friends and family who are corporate and having those conversations like, well, just do it this way. And I'm like, that sounds great, but let me tell you how that's not going to work. And I'm learning to just be like, okay, people mean really well. And I appreciate that for them. And I take what I can from it. But corporate life and the structure of it is very different from entrepreneurship. So that is one of the lessons that I have also learned in this past year.
It is. I'm learning it through you, because I think we were just talking about it this morning. Like, I'm up at 7 and I'm in the zone. I'm sending emails. I'm leaving voice notes, the initiatives, and okay, we need to make sure we move on this. And is there an update on this, and what's happened on that? And it's like, skirt. People are like entrepreneurs, maybe this is not necessarily always how they work. There's not some calendared agenda for the day of every single thing that's going to happen. So yeah, total different environment.
I think with entrepreneurship, you got to make sure that you're good. Like I think in corporate, it was like, we wake up, throw on my clothes. Well, first of all, take a shower, throw on my clothes.
That helps.
Get to work, do these things so I can get off by this set time. It wasn't really checking with myself. And with entrepreneurship, because you are the person wearing all the hats, you got to make sure you're good. So maybe you're not waking up at 6 because you woke up at 6 and you had a headache and you need more time. Maybe it is like you need to study when you first wake up, or you need to move slower and enjoy your breakfast so that you can be prepared mentally for what's coming at you later on in the day. And so it's a very different process, because you have to make sure you're good before you deal with anything else.
Yeah.
So yes, them little text messages you be sending at 8 a.m., girl.
Like, back up off me, please. Don't talk to me before noon. I say this to you a lot, and my grandfather had a saying, I find myself using it a lot lately. You can't dance on every set. That is the saying. And it relates to, taking up every opportunity that's put in front of you. And I know that you've gotten a lot better with the phrase just simply being like, I ain't got it, right? And even though I know it's really important to you to get "that's my jam" in front of as many people as possible, how have you navigated deciding which opportunities and which scenarios to say yes to, and which ones you may, you know, as great as they sound, you just may have to revisit them later. How are you making the differentiation between those?
I don't know if I have a process for that. I think number one, I'm always looking at my calendar. I've learned this past week, 3 is my max per week. And so I either have to reschedule something, cancel something, but I have to give myself some downtime to think, to be creative, to play. And so I guess it's just been a matter of like, okay, let me look at my calendar. That is one thing. I've never been a, wait, can you please hold? I have to look at my calendar type of person, but I have arrived.
Girl. Welcome.
I can't say I love it. I don't like it at all. But yes, because I have double booked myself. I have committed myself to back events. And so you learn from that, because that does not feel good. And, you know, I'm like, okay, let me check my calendar. So I think that's it. I think it's making the mistake of overbooking myself and recognizing how that felt, knowing I don't ever want to feel like that again, and how I want to show up. And so I can only do so much. So I think it's just a matter of scheduling.
Yeah. Because it's not just the selling and the showing up. Like, she got to actually make the jam.
Got to make it.
Make the jam.
Bottle it. Label it. All the things.
There's a whole canning process. It's not just put jam in a jar and shut the lid. Like, there's a whole process to deliver a product properly. And in line with, you know, the health standards, you know, if you want to be able to eat and enjoy it. So, yeah, living and breathing by the calendar comes with a job. I know. I like a good calendar, though. You know, it's funny. You ask people things and everybody pulls out their phone and be like, all right, let me look at the calendar. But it does help you keep things in order. You know, I mentioned at the beginning that, you know, MarQuita is my good girlfriend, and I am notoriously the turn up, spend, and let's go have an experience friend. That's the friend I am. I want to have fun. I want to go places. I'm like, oh, this is going on. Oh, that's going on. Let's get a ticket. Let's show up. You know, it's only a couple of hours, you know, but I've had to really manage my expectations of you as a friend, because, you know, we met not long before you ended up going full-time in your business. And that can be a tricky space to navigate when you're used to experiencing your friends in capacity A, and now they're an entrepreneur and you have to experience them in capacity B, because they're not in the same place in their life. Their remits and expectations for themselves are not the same. What do you want people to know about what it means to be friends with you at this time in your life?
Ooh. I think this really applies to the people who knew me before.
Okay.
Because I think new friends will experience me how I am. And I think I will attract the people that, you know, can vibe with where I am right now. And so I think with people that have been knowing me for years, and me being their friend, now me being a business owner and representing a brand, it's been, wait a second, she's kind of bossy. Sorry. Or wait a second, like, you know, hey, friend, let me pull you aside, because I know you don't do that at work. So guess what? You cannot do that here at That's My Jam. So we're having like these different conversations. They're like, wait, whoa. So I'm having to like maybe show up in a different way. I mean, you really have me thinking, like, what does it mean to be my friend? I think they have to answer that. Maybe you have to answer that.
Look, I was just thinking, well, maybe I can answer. I did kind of catch you right at that cutoff point between part-time entrepreneur and full-time entrepreneur. But like, I think back to that first time we hung out and we went to brunch. Like on a Sunday morning, MarQuita's not at brunch, right? She's usually at a pop-up, right? Or stirring her pot to get ready. She's usually, either at a pop-up actively selling or, making jam in preparation for a pop-up to be actively selling. Or like if we go somewhere, you know how you're like, okay, well, you come pick me up on the way and we'll ride together. Sometimes she has inventory and things. And of course, like, there's no place for you to sit. I'll meet you there, girl. That kind of thing. She's not going to be the friend who's out with you late at night, at the music events and those kind of things. Because if she has early meetings the next day that she has to prep for, she just does not have the time. Literally, it's not having the time, but it's really, how do you want to use the time? And, cavorting about with me all hours of the night. Hey, how she want to use the time? And I get it.
I think too, like, I'm learning that there's certain conversations I'm going to have to stay away from. Like, I have to protect my bandwidth. And so we can't have those conversations right now because I have to keep my mind right, because either I'm getting ready to face the public and have to sell. Like, I cannot be the person that you're venting to in this moment, because that then feels heavy for me and I can't show up how I need to show up. I recognize that has changed, and, some people are not a fan of that. Mm-hmm. I had one more. I just lost it.
While you wait to get it back, I think it's just the sugar and salt of a friendship. Like, friendships go through evolutions for lots of different reasons, right? And it's not always connected to business. Sometimes your friendship goes through an evolution because someone gets married, right? Or they're moving in with their partner, or they become a parent, or they move to another state. These are all things that have happened in friendships for me. And it does change the dynamic of the friendship. But if it's a real friendship, you navigate those changes. Because if it's one thing we know is, shit don't stay the same. And so it will change. And, to me, that's the measure of not real friendships, but, it's the measure of the depth of them. How are we able to navigate those changes? So, you're an entrepreneur, but also, you're still cute. You're an attractive single woman. And how are you balancing everything you have going on with dating? I would think now more than ever, it would take a certain kind of person to kind of hold that space in your life right now, because they would have to understand where you are with things in this current moment.
They would absolutely have to understand, and they would have to absolutely be a part of That's My Jam in terms of mindset.
And carrying them damn boxes.
Girl, them pop-up tents. You got to have some height on you, because you got to be able to push that tent up.
That's right. We need you to carry boxes.
Listen, welcome to the label parties.
Hey.
I order pizza, we watch movies, and we label.
We put labels on jars. Mm-hmm. Listen, if you want to come over here and get to know MarQuita, roll your sleeves up. We need you to work as well. Must be present to win. Must be working to win.
Must be able to lift 40 pounds.
Oh, goodness. We're going to make up a job description, to people. Can you do these things? Yeah. Dating by Jam. It's been a year, a little over a year since you went full time in the business. Do you have any regrets? I know you love it, but certainly not every single aspect. Is anything you're like, I wish, I had
I'm
done
not
that
really
different?
a regret person.
No. Why?
I believe that it's happening how it's supposed to happen. And even if I fail by, society standards of failure, I learn, I win, I grow, I get better. So I don't really look back and say I regret anything. Yeah, there were things I didn't know. There were mistakes that I made. But guess what it did? It made me better.
In what way?
Like, I had to figure it out. And so now I know. And if I didn't fail, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so how else was I supposed to learn? How was I supposed to realize that I didn't know something? So, people look at it as a failure. Okay. Maybe it was a moment that I didn't show up in my best that I could have, but how else was I supposed to know that I needed to get better? So I think it all works for my good. I don't subscribe to the I have regrets. Because at the end of the day, if I mess up, I'm going to own it. If I hurt your feelings, I'm going to apologize. If I fail to deliver, I'm going to deliver twice as much next time. So I don't regret it.
Okay.
I win always.
These things, listen, I need to get like you. I have some regrets. I was going to say in my own business, I'm so reticent to call what I'm doing a business just yet. I like to refer to it as an endeavor. But here's a fun fact, right? If you've enjoyed any outcome of Kay and the Bay curated events, you kind of low-key have MarQuita to thank for that. I remember at that brunch, where we went to brunch that very first time after I bought the jam, and she's like, you post a lot and you're at restaurants and go into this and go into that. And, I got to talking about it with her, and she's like, have you ever thought about, here she goes with the questions. Have you ever thought about, like making a business out of that? Because you just really seem to be very excited, and, it's clear this is what you love to do. And it was the first time that I thought that there could be some feasibility to a business model of being out and about in food spaces and artisan and creative spaces, within the business community in the Bay Area. And so here it is. You're just talking over brunch and just ideas just falling from the sky.
I remember that day, and I think that's one thing that I'm really proud of. I while we were talking about corporate earlier, I remember being really disconnected in corporate. Very much like you do this thing, and you do this thing, and you go home. There wasn't a lot of feeling. And I remember when I first started at 510 Media, and Mashama, he said, "MarQuita, how does this font make you feel?" And I looked at that man. I was like, feel?
Feeling fonts?
How is this font supposed to make me feel? What do you mean? And then that was like always like something I aspired. Like I wanted to interpret things. I wanted to be able to feel and connect and like be curious about stuff. And so as you bring that moment up, it's actually low-key like growth for me, because I sat and I listened to you talk about this earlier idea you had. And you were just talking about it, trying to come up with something. But then we would talk about, so I was at this market and I did this and oh my God, I tried this. You haven't heard about this? Oh my God. And I'm just sitting watching you just light up. And I was like, look here, I didn't see that excitement when you were talking about the other thing. But this thing, you get so excited. You got a big old smile on your face. Like, do you see this? Do you see what I see? And so I recognized like, dang, it was growth for me in that moment to be able to feel, to be curious, to see you was not something that I had coming out of corporate. So all of that helped me to be like, hey, girl, I think this thing that you're doing, you really get excited about it. So I think that's more of where you want to go down.
I'm going to spare y'all the details of what the original business plan was.
Yeah.
And knowing MarQuita a lot better now, I should have never bought that plan to her. Wrong person. If I brought that to you today, you'd be like, girl, if you don't get the hell on with these crazy ideas. But just to tap into that point you made a moment ago, because that's something I feel that, you've kind of helped me to look at, is this whole prospect of seeing people, right? Which is, it's not easy to do, and it's not easy to do in a business space, because sometimes in business you're coming to the table with either an expectation or a need. You're trying to move a task from end to end. And, who are you in business with at the time that's happening, and kind of what are the tenets of how this person moves? You have to see people so that you can set expectations around things like responsiveness and timeliness and, how much planning you have to bring versus how much planning other people bring, or whatever the case may be. So it's really illustrated to me the importance of understanding the nuances of who you're working with in order to work with them most effectively, rather than just coming to the table and saying, I'm in business A, you're in business B, I'm in partnership with you for A, B, or C, or whatever it is, and, having an expectation based solely on business?
I think business, regardless of what you do, whether you're selling a product or offering a service, you are interacting with people. Without people, you don't have a business. This is not an exchange. This is a experience.
Come on, experience.
And so I need to see you. Beyond selling you a jam, how are you? What do you like? How's your day going? Because this is an experience. And so, yes, you got to absolutely see people, because without people, you don't have a business. And you gotta also, check your personal feelings about things. And so without seeing people, you can tell yourself a lot of stories. That I think, so therefore it is, and I feel, so that's how it is. Like, no, like you got to see that person. You got to see like, hey, they're not responding to your email because this is going on with them. They're not responding to your email because they're super busy. But if you just automatically go into, they're not responding to my email, this is poor business, you just, messing up your relationships. Like, you got to see people, and you got to be able to show up to what they have going on as well.
Mm-hmm. Learning from me, for sure. So thanks for imparting that lesson, friend.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. That's what friendship is about.
I'll tell you, I give you, you give me.
Right?
Yes. What's next? What's next for That's My Jam Company? And let me position that a little better. What's next, but also what is your hope for That's My Jam Company?
I would say my hope is really impact. I want to be able to create a really cool, safe environment for people to work. And I want to employ people that maybe need a second chances, or, have situations at home where maybe getting a regular 9-to-5, like we keep, shooting jabs at corporate, but whatever, getting a regular 9-to-5, can't fit with what they have going on with life. I want to be like a really special place to work. Beyond that, though, too, I've kind of always been this old-fashioned, traditional, I call myself faux country because I'm not milking nobody's cow. But, I love a good farm. I plant a seed and I watch something grow. It's so magical to me. And I feel like, especially, being a kid growing up in East Oakland, I feel that gets lost. And as I'm out here and I'm selling jam, people are always like, wait a second, you're too old. You're too young to be doing this. And then they're always thrown off about the fact of like, where does this black girl from East Oakland, where'd she get off making jam? Of all the things, you out here making jam? And so I kind of low-key take pride in that. Like, yeah, like, I grew up with my grandparents and my great uncles and their friends, and that's what they were doing. They were canning. They were preserving their food. They were growing. This person was growing greens. This person was, growing tomatoes, and then we was sharing. And I feel like that's so lost. And as I look on the future of That's My Jam, wherever I am, wherever space I am, I'm not sure. But I know that it's important to me to represent that and to pass that down and be an example of like, yeah, we grow up in this city, East Oakland, or, wherever part of Oakland you're from. But, and yeah, there's no farms per se, like where we can drive down the street and see. But there's this thing that you can do. There's this gardening that you can do. There's this way that you can preserve your food. And this is how you do it, and this is why you do it. Just like that old fashioned vibe, it tickles me. And so I just, and if you've ever been with me and you've seen me at a farm, you're going to see me in my full element. But yeah, I want to be passing this down for people. In the immediate future, though, that's my jam. The goal is to get into more retail spaces. So that's what we're working on, so that it's readily available when you're ready, and when you're in need, you can just go to your local store and get it off the shelf. So,
and I mean, your retail relationships are strong. Just a rundown. Not only, are you starting to round out your presence at markets and pop-up events, but you are at all of that in Noe Valley. You are at Rise Up Bakery on Howard Street in San Francisco. You are in Island Savoy Market in Alameda. You are at Town Fair Cafe at Oakland Museum of California. Like, it's starting to really pick up, which is great. And it's scary because you're still that one person making that jam, but it really is starting to pick up and, really starting to gain a wide presence in Bay Area, definitely in Oakland. We won't blow up all the things that are on That's My Jam Company's radar, but, hoping to see jam in a lot more places very soon.
Absolutely. And to grow my team as well, because this has been great doing all the things, but yeah, we're ready to delegate. We're ready to get some extra hands, some extra hands on board. So, yeah.
But you've done a great job of hands. Listen, just a few weeks ago at Black Vines, you had friends fly in.
Listen,
this means, wait a minute, hold on. They flew in from LA. So this means they went to LAX.
Parked their car.
Went through TSA security, boarded a flight, got to the venue, sold, and she went back later that night. Like, it was a turnaround trip. So to me, that speaks to your power, to the power of you being able to curate the right kind of team, but also people's willingness to show up for you.
Absolutely. And I'm always in awe. I'm like, God, like, I just do the work and you just keep opening the doors, because there's people and places and conversations that I'm having that I can't even take credit for. Like, I did the work, but somehow, here we go with that word favor that you and I talk about. But no, it just be pressed upon people like, I want to help her. And I just sit back and I'd be like so amazed by that. And yes, I have been able to get where I am by the support of my family and my friends. Like, I'm really so grateful for y'all. You guys have met me in the rain. You guys have, on your weekends showed up at 8 a.m. and given me your entire day. You've came to my label parties. I mean, I remember you, me, and Terrell for Thanksgiving dinner after Thanksgiving was on the floor labeling. And I got a picture of that somewhere. So yeah, I'm saying that I'm doing all the things because ultimately, like, the responsibility is on me, but I don't show up by myself. I've never till this day had to do a pop-up by myself. And my friends have always showed up, even when I'm secretly, like, mentally like, okay, this is going to be it. MarQuita, it's going to be you today. I've never had to do it by myself. Someone's always like called, hey, what are you doing this? Oh, I'll be pop-up. Well, who's helping you? I don't have help. Oh, I'll be there. And I've been amazed by that. So Thank you. Thank you guys that are listening. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, shout out to all the Jam fam that has shown up. Terrell, Afia, Monica, like Ashley's come through and done events. Like, shout out to the people who have come and stood up and lifted boxes and talked to the customers and, navigated the wind and all those things.
And even the people that speak That's My Jam into it, different places, like Chef Ken Wynn, he's always like, can I get your jam? Or even Chef Tirza, who's like, she did a box with my jams. And all the chefs, there's so many, I don't want to start naming them, but you guys know who you are, and you've had conversations on my behalf, and you've brought the product and you've advocated for it. And I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Well, before I have you talk to people about where they can find That's My Jam, I'll just say, as a friend, but also as a customer, I buy a lot of artisan food products. That's just kind of what I like to do.
I'm going to interrupt her because she's not framing this right. Homegirl has all the snacks. You know how like we watch QVC maybe for like a beauty product or like the fake diamonds? No. I hate to blast you out. She orders food, y'all. I had never seen such a thing. You go over her house and it's like, oh, wait, what's this? Oh, yeah, this person. She was just telling me, I'm not going to name no name. She was just telling me about this specialty popcorn. And she's so excited about it, y'all. So she's not framing it correctly. Homegirl knows all the snacks. Okay, you can continue now.
It's R&D. This is research and development. Like I have to get the food to speak to the food. So I'm in the market. I am the demographic consumer for this kind of product. But I have to say that what sold me and really endeared the product to me very early on was the versatility. And we socialize it a lot when we talk to people, but it really is more than just toast and biscuits. Mm-hmm. I have made salad dressings, cocktails, baked goods, pasta sauces, marinades, just all kind of things out of this. And so if you have not had That's My Jam, I recommend that you do. Let people know where they can find. I know I ran down some of the in-person outlets, but just let people know the rundown of where they can find it.
You can always order online. We're at that'smyjamcompany.com. And if you follow us on Instagram at That's My Jam Company, I do my best. Sometimes I miss some days, but I do my best to post recipe inspirations and ideas for what you can do with the jam. And also, if you have the jam and you do something really, cool and you tag me in on it, I'll also repost it as well.
Okay. We love to see what people make with their jam. I think I'm going to be doing a reel with jam later this week. Yes. I'm going to be redoing it. I actually did this recipe a few months back, but Instagram is such a hater sometimes. Whatever music got attached to the reel has some copyright infringement. It was like they shut my whole thing down. So I'm going to redo that bigger and better. So if you tap into my Instagram later this week in the next few days, I'm sure you'll see it. But, to close us out, one of the episodes I did earlier this season with Lauren Adams. Mm-hmm. And she said at the end of the interview something that stuck with me. And she said, I just want to take up my space, right? I don't want to take over. Mm-hmm. I just want to take up my space. And, I wish that for you. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are on their own individual paths right now, but I think I wish it for you more than any of them. Not that I don't wish it for them, but I wish it for you more because I've had an up close view to what this takes and what has been required of you and how you've shown up to it. So I'm extremely proud of you. And I am extremely proud of what you've been able to do in a short period of time. The fact that you have bet on yourself and that the bet is paying off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Well, that's where you can find information about That's My Jam. If you want to stop by my Instagram and get to know me a little bit better, you can find me at Kahja versus Kahja. That's KAHJA_VS_KAHJA. And that's season 3 of the As Told by podcast. We are about to go into hiatus while I find all new folks to talk to next season and interview. I might try to do some kind of like That's My Jam podcast mixer for the guests that have been on and people who just enjoy listening to the show. But this season has been really dope. One of my favorites. Also want to shout out my sponsors and partners, Stay Div, who have sponsored and hosted this season of the As Told by podcast. They've been amazing partners to work with. So thank you so much to them. And I will see you all on season 4. Peace.